Got 2
I think
minutes.
last,
actually.
Mr. Rosenthal. Yeah. You need it?
We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Start this morning with the Governance Committee. Mr. Ferrara, would you be kind enough to call the roll?
I will, Mr. Chairman. Jeffrey Rosenthal.
Here?
Albert Hayes. Here. Robert Moore.
Excused?
I'll entertain, I guess it's myself and,
Well, I'll just do the board members. Mark Finkel.
Here.
David Bergstresser.
Here.
Anthony Netto. Here. Michael Clark is here. It's Richard Aurora. Robert Leslie.
Here.
Robert Fultan.
Here.
John Hudson.
Here.
Stephanie Rizicki.
Here.
Richard Ferrara here. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Ferrara, we have new business. Oh, I apologize. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the October 13 Governance Committee meeting. No,
I'll make
minutes.
that motion.
I'll second that motion. I think it's just Mr. Hayes and myself technically that are
Mr. Hayes.
present for the Governance Committee, so.
Do we want to motion to adopt or revise the committee agenda?
We do want to do that. I apologize. I'll
That's
make
all right.
that motion.
Mr. Rosenthal.
Second it.
Mr. Hayes.
All in favor?
Aye. And
Sorry. We have,
vote on the meeting minutes as well?
we
There's a
did
motion
that.
on the
We
table.
did that backwards, but,
True. There's a motion and a second, but no vote.
oh, there was no vote?
That on the
Okay.
committee meeting.
All right. All in favor of approving the minutes?
A little rusty.
Or, aye? Are we up to speed now?
We are good to go.
Excellent. Now we'll do some new business. Mr. Farrar, I understand we have a discussion of the annual review and approval of our investment policy.
We do, Mr. Chairman. On page 4 is my memo to the board. This is an annual review. It is pursuant to Public Authorities Law, Section 2925. There has been no change since the last time we adopted or annually reviewed and approved the policy from last year, so
I will entertain a motion to move this, to advance this to the full board.
I will make that motion.
I will second that motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. Farrar, similarly, we have a discussion of the annual review of our procurement policy.
we do, Mr. Chairman. On page 10 is my memo, and the policy is on page 11 and ends about 31. There have been no changes since the last time the board approved this policy, which is a revised policy where we incorporated some stuff. And General Counsel had reminded me that there is a new directive that comes through the Office of the General Services Office, which is under Executive Order 17B, which is the initiative to have a goal to achieve procurement from disabled veteran firms. The council had a question as to whether or not that's probably similar to the MWBE program being incorporated in our procurement policy. I did not get a chance to read all of 17B. Did you read anything in there that suggested that it is required to be
Not
part
required,
of?
no, it's just that as long as we're following our procurement policy. So we could reference it in the policy, we want to make that change like we did to the MWBE.
Is the approach the same?
Basically, there's a mandated goal
6%.
that we follow.
What's your recommendation, council?
We go pretty extensively into how to procure with regard to MWBEs.
Right.
an entire article of the procurement policy is dedicated to exactly that. It's probably worth looking at and determining whether we ought to consider modifying those paragraphs to reference both MWBs and service-related disabled vets.
Is it appropriate to approve our policy, subject to future revision, if you deem necessary?
We certainly could. We could table it and review it next meeting.
Correct, right. Because we have another governance meeting scheduled no later than September, so, or we could convene a committee meeting earlier if we found something that.
That's your recommendation, Council and Mr. Farrar, we just table this? No harm, no foul kind of a
Right,
thing?
we follow the.
We have a policy that's in
Right,
place.
Right.
We follow it. We even apply it to the veterans. It's just the proverbial quote paperwork to get
Exactly.
caught up.
Correct,
Right.
correct.
Why don't we table it?
Okay.
And similarly, our review and approval of our property guidelines policy. Again, Mr. Ferrara,
Well, let's, because we didn't vote on.
do we need to vote on something that's tabled?
Oh, so you want to table the review? I wouldn't recommend tabling the review.
It's up to you.
I believe the board, unless council believes we can't do it. I think the board could still advance the approval of the policy, subject to that review. I mean, again, the review, it's.
The annual review is designed to ensure that you look at it every year and understand what the policy is, and any changes in the law that may have.
So it would be more appropriate to
Required
advance it to the
change.
board and have the board table it?
Well,
I mean, I know this is
either way.
administrative logistics and gymnastics here. I
We're
just
not-
want to get to the result that we should.
Even if we don't modify the policy is not in, or is not contrary to the law. We could maintain the existing policy and revise it at a later date.
All right.
That's not a problem. The issue is, has the board taken a look at the
Have we
policy
done our
to
annual
ensure?
review?
Correct, and that's really what.
So.
Then I'll entertain a motion to advance the procurement policy for consideration by the full board.
Okay. Make that motion.
I'll second that motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Ferrara, you're still up with regard to the property guidelines policy and its annual review.
And my memo's on 32, I believe. Disposition of property guidelines is pursuant to Public Authority Law 2896. The policy that you have before you has no changes from the last time we reviewed it. Council, I don't know what you were reviewing, but came across an ABO guidance document, I believe was dated last November.
Right.
Which, if I understand correctly, seems to indicate that under the section on page 38, I don't know how far back, under, God, what is that section? Bids for, is it F? In the middle of the page, under F, such action is otherwise authorized by law, then there's the small I-V-A explanatory statement shall be prepared of circumstances of each disposal by negotiation of. I believe items 4 and 5 both deal with any real property. Just want to see the disposed of by lease or really disposed of by exchange. So is it only the lease?
It is disposal of property by exchange or lease with a threshold of $15,000 annually or more now requires an explanatory statement. Previously, and as evidenced in our guidelines, a disposal by exchange or lease of over $100,000 required an explanatory statement. ABO's guidance doesn't break out whether it is more than or less than 5 years. Our policy does break out whether it's more than or less than 5 years. So a single change in the ABO's policy results in changes to 2 paragraphs for our policy.
Paragraph
But-
4 and 5.
Right, so, but basically, it just reduces the threshold from $100,000 a year to $15,000.
But there's 2 different vehicles involved.
Yes,
One is a
Right.
lease term and one is an exchange.
Correct.
right.
So those are now, under this ABO, a single,
No,
No, they're both-
it's the same language.
Same
language in the ABO.
Threshold's just changed for both.
Right,
so the threshold's been reduced from 100,000 to 15.
15,000.
right.
Hmm.
Not something we
We don't,
do.
right. We don't transact.
So again, procedurally at this point,
Procedurally, all you have to do is modify the policy to reduce the 100,000 to 15,000 in those 2 instances, advance it to the board can approve it, and you're done.
so I'll make a motion, I'll entertain a motion to amend our policy
I will make that
at
motion.
whatever paragraph F4, reduce from 100 to 15,000.
Right.
You're making
Paragraphs
the
4 and
motion.
5.
No, you're making the motion.
I'll make the
I'm
motion.
seconding the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And with that change, I'll entertain a motion to advance the property guideline policy as now amended to the full board. I'll make that motion.
I will second that.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any other new business not set forth on the agenda?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make that
I'll
motion.
second that motion. All in favor? Aye. We're
Aye.